In June of 2019, my two oldest told me of something that happened. We live in the woods. My children and I homeschooled them, and we would spend our days in the woods, walking the trails and exploring. And my oldest son was 5 at the time. And he told me, we went on a new trail with Dad yesterday, somewhere we've never been. I want to show you. Because he had taken them on a 4-wheeler ride when my youngest was taking a nap. So I was home with him. So anyway, we went on a walk. He showed me where they went. I could see where the 4-wheeler had matted down the high grass, the bottom of the hill. And he told me that's where Dad pulled over the 4-wheeler. And then he went on to tell me, and Dad did this and made us do this. And what that was sexual abuse.
Real life stories to bring awareness to domestic violence, human trafficking, and systemic corruption. Welcome to our podcast and lives. We are so happy that you joined us and hope that you like and follow us, and would love for you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let the show begin. It is so nice to have you with me, Jessica. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your story.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. So where is it that you're located at again?
I'm in Temple, Texas.
Temple, Texas. There's lots and lots of corruption over there in Texas.
Yeah, Bell County is really bad.
Yes.
I learned just from going through it.
Yes. I have an advocate that I work with out of Bell County, and it's pretty crazy and scary over there what they're getting away with and doing. Looking forward to hearing your story, and hopefully it'll shed some light on what's really happening down there.
Well, thank you. It starts actually in Wisconsin, because I was living in Wisconsin with my husband and our 3 children, and in June of 2019, my 2 oldest told me of something that happened. We live in the woods. My children and I homeschooled them, and we would spend our days in the woods, walking the trails and exploring. And my oldest son was 5 at the time. And he told me, we went on a new trail with Dad yesterday, somewhere we've never been. I want to show you. Because he had taken them on a 4-wheeler ride when my youngest was taking a nap. So I was home with him. So anyway, we went on a walk. He showed me where they went. I could see where the 4-wheeler had matted down the high grass, the bottom of the hill. And he told me that's where Dad pulled over the 4-wheeler. And then he went on to tell me, and Dad did this and made us do this. And what that was sexual abuse. So that was June 2019, or it was into May. I can't remember exactly. I know we left June 27th, 2019. I don't know how long it took me to get the courage to confront their dad. I did try to confront him, and that didn't go well. So I ended up going to our pastor, who came that day. And then he came back that night, and that ended in my husband at the time calling the police, and the police escorting my children and I out. I'm trying to just summarize, but because the long and short of it is, in Wisconsin, Grant County, Wisconsin, they ended up protecting my ex-husband at the time. Once the investigation was started, my children and I were in a safe place, and I got them in therapy right away. But their dad ended up the next month filing with the court for temporary orders and legal separation. And that's when everything just went horribly, because the courts, of course, ordered unsupervised visitation. And that's where the abuse continued to escalate. Once they went, I withheld them in the beginning. And then he kept calling the police when I withheld them. And then finally there was a hearing, a contempt hearing, and the judge said I would go to jail and or lose custody if I did not allow him his visits. And that was with therapists making reports. The therapist making reports was after I was forced to send them, and they would go to therapy. I tried to schedule therapy on their visit days. And they would end up telling about their visit to their therapist, and the therapist made multiple reports, and every time it was unsubstantiated because the social services there in Grant County kept saying it wasn't enough details. So that was just horrible. That went on for a year, and then after that, the judge, he ordered, joint custody. They had a visit schedule, and they gave him breaking impasse authority. So we had equal custody, but he got to make the decisions when it came to medicine, education, all of those things.
Wow.
Which he ended up saying no more therapy, and I homeschooled my kids, so he tried to use that against me and say I'm putting them in school, which it was during COVID, and I'm like, this is the worst time to stick them in a scene they've never been in, with all that going on. And he ended up telling me, if you move back in, I'll let you homeschool them and be their caregiver if you drop child support. And I wanted to do that because I didn't want them alone with him anymore. And he couldn't afford childcare. So to me, it was the best way to take care of my children. And so I did that. And I lived with him. And entire year after the divorce. And then he moved us to Texas, and that's where Bell County comes in. We were in Texas June 21st, 2021. So that's a year after the divorce was final. We came to Texas, and 4 months after we'd been here, he left. He got a place. He said that starting in November, I would have to pay for that place, and I'd been homeschooling. I didn't have $1,300 for rent. So right away, I got a hold of my attorney from the divorce in Wisconsin to find out what I was allowed to do legally, because I was like, he left. And then part of the judgment for the final order was I had to live a 120-mile radius of him. So he left. I didn't know how I didn't have community here. I didn't know how I was going to support my children. So I made that phone call, and that attorney said, Grant County still has jurisdiction. Y'all didn't go through the courts to move, and you are perfectly legally allowed to come back with your children. So I was so happy that I finally would have wings to protect my children and not be held in contempt, so I made arrangements, and he found out, and CPS was called the day I was leaving. So that's when it got from bad to worse. I was dumb. I thought that the lady was there to help me. There was just some lies made to get her in the door, which I could tell once she read this report to me that it was either my ex-husband or his sister. And he moved us to Texas with the intention of getting the kids from me. I heard him on the phone before he left saying, and when she can't afford her own home, I'm going for full custody. So I knew in hindsight that he had something to do with this, and especially because at the end of the report, it talked about an incident with our dog, and only he knew about that, which it was just that my dog was in the front yard and the police told me I had to get my dog in. So anyway, the Vicky Israel was the lady who came. She said, I can help you get where you're going. Trust me, I fled my abuser. That's how I got in this line of work. And she was like, I can give you gas vouchers to get there. I just need to call and confirm, because I had already made arrangements for me and my children. We had a place to go. I was so happy and relieved. I had been helped by this place when I was going through the divorce. I had talked to my daughter's therapist, and I just had everything all worked out, and I was so happy. I just needed a little bit more gas money to get back to Wisconsin.
That's a long trip to make.
Yeah, and I was tempted to just go and camp until I had the rest of the money, but I didn't want to be foolish because he has shown himself to be violent. Back in Wisconsin, he did threaten to kill me and actually tried in a purpose car wreck, and that there's evidence of that. He got failure to stop at a stop sign. So I had to be very careful in how I went about it, and I had to be fast, because he was still coming to the house to get his things, and he would just show up anytime. I never knew. So I didn't want there to be evidence that I was packing up. So I had to be real discreet about it. But he still found out through my brothers. One of my brothers. I don't know which one. But anyway, Vicky Israel deceived me, lied to me. She said she was going to help me. She ended up going to her car to talk to her supervisor. And when she came back to the door, she was with the police. And I was like, what are you doing? Did you call? I thought you were going to help us. And she just stayed quiet, and the police took over. What ended up happening is when she said, I'll get you there, I just need to ask you questions first, I was dumb, and I told her the backstory of what happened in Wisconsin and why I moved back in with him. And just mentioning sexual abuse, I think that in hindsight, now that I know that CPS is so corrupt, I can see that that's just like ding, 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 okay, there's the reason we can take the kids. She told me, and she wrote on paper, the reason she took them is for me giving him access to the children with known allegations of sexual abuse.
That is just, and it's sickening. I didn't have a similar situation, but I was in a position to where I had gotten away from my abuser and continued to be stalked and threatened and harassed. And my daughter was, 1 year old at the time, would come home and started having staring seizures. And her behavior was just really scary. And I knew something was going on there. And that's what these court systems do. They don't help. They don't protect. And they leave these vulnerable mothers in a situation to where they have no choice but to go back in order to protect their children, because the system fails to do so. Exactly. And then we get held accountable for not protecting our children. And exactly. Pick one, y'all.
Right. Because the actual story is I was protecting my children, and the courts intervened in the protection of the children. And then I was punished for protecting them. And then here in Texas, I was punished for obeying the court in the best way that I could. To me, moving in with him was way better than sending them to be alone with him, because I left out the hell that it was when I finally had to, I withheld the children. So when we left June 27th, everything was fine until October. That's whenever the forced visitation started. And so from then until June, it was hell, because my son would hide and cry, not wanting to go to visits. He was 5. and they would come back telling me these horrible things. I recorded it when they were telling me about it, but the social services and the police both said, we're not listening to that recording. We don't know what happened before you pushed record. And even the therapist recorded my daughter, but they didn't use that in court. And I even gave the guardian ad litem the recording of my son telling me these horrible things. He drew his picture. It was very, very clear. It shows him screaming help. He said, that's my daughter crying and that's blood. And it shows their dad. Like, it's a very horrible picture. It's just horrible to see. And the guardian ad litem didn't do anything about that. So it's maddening. It is like the worst thing. It's like torture, really, to be forced to send your children to be abused. And then, like, how do you live with yourself? So, of course, to me, living with him so that I could always be a circle of safety around them was way better. Even though I loved having my own home that was peaceful, no raging. How can I sleep at night knowing that my children are being in some horrible position, because I'm forced to or I'll go to jail?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was just maddening. And like in hindsight, when I see the report that Vicky gave the court, it's just maddening. She leaves out the parts that would explain why I moved back in and makes me look like a horrible mother, and leaves out the part about I had a court order. So when I got an appointed attorney, I gave her the court order. I gave her the minutes from the contempt hearing to show I was actually about to be in jail for withholding the children. I was protecting them, and this was a way to protect them. When they came to my home, he wasn't even living there anymore. I told them where I was going. I gave them the numbers of the people to confirm it. So the fact that they took my children is just like, it just shows that it's money to them. They're not trying to protect my kids. We had our way to safety. We were on our way and they stopped us. So that was October 21st, 2021. And now here we are, and I haven't seen my children, had any contact with them, and they live with their dad.
So is that in a court order? Do they have that court ordered? What happened legally with that?
Legally, CPS gave the children to his sister, and right away, within weeks, they let her be his supervisor for visits. So they didn't even observe him around the children. They just took her word. They stopped my visits as soon as I got a home. Because, I left that one. It was too expensive. I got a job within a week after they took my kids. I got a home, April of 2022. So it took me November, December, January, February, March, April. It took me a while to get a home. I stayed in that one where I was at when they took my kids until December. As soon as I got my home, my attorney that was appointed to me said, you'll be able to do a monitored return. But as soon as I got my home, they stopped my visits. And they came up with some lame excuse after the fact. On my way to the visit, which was an hour away, I got a message from the caseworker that there was no visit. And I was like, why is that? And she said, well, because your son told his therapist that you said that you had a boyfriend who'd be a better daddy, which, first of all, I didn't have a boyfriend. Second of all, I never said that. And third of all, I had supervised visits at the CPS office. She takes notes and said my visit had no problems in my visit. And it was a week later that she's telling me this on the way to the visit. So it's just like, what? And then 4 months later, we had a hearing about it, and they had new reasons. They said I was coaching the children at visits, whispering in their ears to say their dad did things.
Lord have mercy. Did they charge you with something that you were prosecuted for? What were their grounds and the court order for removing them from your care to begin with? Did they just completely skip due process? You weren't charged with anything?
They skipped due process. What happened is the attorney they appointed to me withheld the evidence I gave her, the names, numbers, the court documents that showed Grant County had jurisdiction and that I was under an order to obey, and names of the therapists. I gave them all kinds of information. She withheld the evidence, and she told the court, my client is for CPS having conservatorship. So she just handed my kids over. Then I was just like, what's going on? It was all over Zoom. After the hearing, I was like, what are you going to give them the evidence? They shouldn't have taken the children. I thought they were going to be coming home. She's like, no, it's too late for that now. Now that they have them, you just need to follow their plan, their family plan, and you'll get them back.
Have you spoken with Tracy Lynn?
I've seen her on groups that I'm in, but I haven't spoken directly with her.
Reach out to her. They are in the process of doing a massive audit nationwide of CPS and all the crazy stuff that's happening with family courts. And they have, I can't say verbatim what it is, but they have some sort of something of the sort set up to where reach out to her and she'll get you on and have you write out a statement of, your story, your situation, what's happening. But they're making huge waves and huge steps forward. They're going to be presenting it to a branch of the Congress, I believe, something or other, some sort of committee within the Congress, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think I might have jumped on board with that before. Like, I don't know. I think she had mentioned she's no longer working with certain people. And before she mentioned that, I think I had joined it. Like, I had written my statement for Congress. It was supposed to be for an investigation of CPS. So I think I already did it, but I will still reach out to her to make sure, like, if it's a separate thing or if it's what she's doing.
Yeah, she does have a couple of different things going on too. So it's definitely, worth a hot second to reach out to her and see what she's got going on and confirm. Love what she's doing and it's worth a shot. So, I mean, they put you in these situations to where you feel like your hands are tied and there's not anything really that you can do. I mean, what are you going to do? Go up and fight an entire system? And there's so many people that don't realize that, yes, that is literally what we have to do as parents trying to keep our children safe from abusers. And it's forced and it completely re-traumatizes these families all over again.
Yeah, I feel like court itself is torturous. Like, it's horrible how they treat me and how it happens. Like, I couldn't believe the things that would happen. And they were all over Zoom. I got a family advocate and they wouldn't allow her to come to court. There was another lady that I found. She's an executive director of Our Children Matter Most. And she tried to sign into a Zoom hearing just to be eyes in the courtroom. And just the fact that she tried to sign in, like once they asked who she was, they went to a breakaway session. They didn't allow her in, but they went to a breakaway session and decided to reschedule. And then my attorney that was appointed to me withdrew. She didn't like the fact that I was reaching out for help. But that's because I started seeing, like, no matter what I'm doing, they're not trying to help my family get back together. Like, I did everything they asked. I was even, successfully discharged from therapy that they ordered. And she gave a recommendation for get visits back as soon as possible and work towards reunification. Like, she's done all this and she wrote it all out. And then the caseworker told the court there was no recommendation. And I'm just sitting here like, how is she just lying? Like, this isn't okay.
It's really scary what they do.
It is. And then the fact that my children, like, so they kept the kids from me. They're with the sister, their aunt. And then I found out when my brother came to visit, they live full time with their dad. She gave them to him. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. But they're closer to me. So I tried to go where they go to school, and I left because I did some Ubering, and it ended up right where my youngest son goes to school. And so, like, Mother's Day weekend this year, I left signs for them saying, I love you. Because I was just thinking all this time, like, they don't let me call them. They don't give them letters from me. What are my children thinking? Are they thinking mom doesn't love us? Mom abandoned us? I don't know what they're being told, but I just want them to know I want you. I've never wanted to be apart from you. I think of you all the time. I'm doing everything I can to get you back. I want them to know I love them. So I just put pictures up of me with each child and made them each a poster saying, I love you. Then I got, the day after Mother's Day, I got served from my ex-husband. He's filing for a motion to modify. He wants a restraining order on me, asking that I can't leave them messages, can't come anywhere near, and he wants to have full conservatorship. His sister's signing it over to him, and they're asking the judge for that. So I'm hoping that this is my opportunity to get some facts on the record that the attorney withheld before. So I'm trying to get an attorney right now. Before I ended up doing it pro se, when my attorney withdrew, they appointed another one, and the way she was handling the whole therapist recommendation thing and being like, we just got to get you back into therapy again. And I'm like, why are you? I said, here's her recommendation. Like, she was just acting like there wasn't one. And then I realized she's working with them like the other one was. And I was like, listen, I need you to file for discovery and motion to dismiss, because they never even proved jurisdiction and they never even, did due process. And she's like, no, those are frivolous motions. I can't do that. And so I asked her to withdraw, because this is when I started to realize you need stuff on records if you're going to appeal. You need actual facts and evidence on record. So she withdrew 2 days before the final hearing. I was not given a continuance, and I was railroaded at that hearing. So I did try to appeal, and I think I had a solid case. Like, really good case law. Somebody helped me through it. The trial court withheld transcripts, so the appellate court couldn't act on my paperwork.
Were you informed by the appellate court that they were, or was it your responsibility to provide those and they refused it to you?
I found out from the appellate court that they weren't provided after I did request them, and I did file affidavit of indigence. I actually asked the reporter, because this is all new to me. I'd never been a pro se litigant or whatever, sue jury or whatever. I said, what is the proper way to go about requesting transcripts? I just wrote her an email, and she responded, told me what I needed to do. So we had the understanding. I said, I need the final hearing. And she said, how are you going to pay for it? And then this was all before the final order was signed. So I was ahead of the game. I even put a notice of appeal before the order was signed. So I might have jumped the gun there. But anyway, I ended up filing the affidavit of indigence, which means that the county pays for the final hearing transcripts. And I never knew she didn't submit them because we had an understanding. We'd already communicated. And when she told me how I'm going to pay for it, I was like, oh, I'm going to file the affidavit of indigence. And then I had given her the dates. Whenever the appellate court has the updates and it said that the clerk record had been submitted, I was dumb and thought that meant transcripts. I didn't know that was something different. So I had no idea that they were never submitted. I was just waiting to hear back from the appellate court. And when I heard back, they said that I failed to provide the transcripts. So therefore they can only affirm their decision. So then I went to the state Supreme Court and I did a lot of hard work with that documentation and they just denied my motion for review. I didn't even get anywhere. So I just, after that, was just like,
is there a way to try to re-put it through the appellate court with documentation that you need?
I'm hoping. I was on some threads this week, just yesterday even, someone was saying you can try to just ask again, showing those emails of you responding with the court reporter and just try again because I'm past the deadline for an appeal. But like I said, we have this hearing for his motion to modify. I sent in a counter petition where I say, you know what, this is the reason they took my children, for me giving him access. And now he's wanting full custody and I've been withheld from the children for 2 years. Like, this doesn't make any sense and this isn't okay.
Right.
Like, at least
when you go pro se, you are afforded a bit more leeway and whatnot with how things play out. So maybe not look for an attorney and find an advocate to go in and help you and work with you on this and go ahead and do it pro se. So that way you can, get the information in that you need and go through. Cause you may be limited with different things that you can discuss. It has to be, pertinent what the hearing is about. But if you have evidentiary, things to submit to back up your reasoning why, then I would think that would be a really good way to kind of get that stuff in that your previous attorneys had failed to do. I wonder too about maybe filing something in regards to insufficient counsel. Have you checked out statutefinder.org?
No, I haven't heard of it.
So I have an advocate that I had on one of my shows not too long ago and love this guy to pieces. He is an absolute genius and he's a victim of domestic violence from a female perpetrator, which is not always the most common. He built an AI bot specifically for survivors of violence, and to where you can go to his website, statutefinder.org, and then you can put in your story. It says to be as descriptive as possible. I know one big complaint that I've heard from a lot of survivors who have used AI to try to get help is you waste all your time putting in your whole story, hit enter, and it's going to come back and say, I'm sorry, this is too much drama for us to handle. We can't help you type sort of response is what you get. So you won't have that problem with his AI bot. The more details, the better. And what it does when you put in your story and your information, it'll process and give you specific laws and statutes that are being violated. And it doesn't just stop there. Like, it's outrageous, the things that it's capable of. So after it's familiar with your story and knows more what you're looking at, then you can go even further to, how do I fight this pro se? Step by step, what do I need to do to accomplish whatever you need to accomplish? And it will give you links. It will give you, very specific step-by-step instructions. So it's a really great tool, and it's not legal advice, but got to make that disclaimer. It's a really spectacular tool that will really be able to help victims get the justice that they so desperately need.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so maybe put your information in there and see what that pops out. And even, how do I fight this? How can I get this back into court? Just kind of play around with it. If it doesn't spit out the information that you want, you can go and enter in new requests at will. So there's no limits to what you can do. Hi, baby.
Oh my God, I'm just like, this is Haven.
Hi, how are you? Look at those big, beautiful eyes.
Are you curious?
Hi. So adorable.
I'm so grateful for him because, as you can imagine, like the worst thing ever is losing my babies. I felt so lost. And especially first I had a fire, like I'm getting him back. Like I had such hope and just like, nothing stronger than love. And of course, truth will win. And as things just kept on getting so from bad to worse, and like, it's just like hope was just becoming so faint. I just felt so beat. And like, as soon as I came up for air, I felt like I was just getting knocked back down with another wave. And I just felt like if I was a flame or a little candle, I was just a bare flicker that the slightest breeze was just going to extinguish me. I'd have moments like that. But then I would just remember my children and be like, no, I'm going to keep on. But still,
the system is unfortunately built that way to intentionally re-victimize people. It's more money for them.
Like, and even all the hoops they had me jumping through, my boss was like, when I was still like trying to do everything CPS, he's like, do they want you to lose your job? Because they would just ask such outrageous things. Like I didn't have a job, like I didn't have, commitments, and then like the home I was providing, it was 3 bedrooms because they don't allow genders in the same room. That's what I was instructed with CPS. So a 3-bedroom home for a single mom, it was $11.50 a month. And I was getting, I hadn't worked since I became a mother. So I was getting $14 an hour when they hired me. I had to work 6 days a week to afford my bills, So it's just there. I felt like I was just living to just work to get them back. And I didn't even know once I get them back, how I'm going to keep this up. But I was just trying to get them back. Once the Supreme Court denied my motion, I went ahead and moved out of that place. But it was good timing because I had met Brandon, my husband, and moved into his place.
Well, don't give up that hope and don't let that candle go out.
Thank
And
you.
we're fighting for you. There's a huge, big group of us that are fighting tooth and nail to force change. The system, unfortunately, thus far has not been willing to work with us to create change. So if we have to keep running our mouths and force it, then that's what we'll do. So don't give up. And I'll see what I can do about getting some people sent your way that might maybe be able to help a little bit better. And I will text you the information that I shared with you about the statute matcher. It was statute matcher, but I think recently changed it to statute finder, which either or will go to the same place. So but I'll send you a link for that so you can check that out and put your story in there and see what it comes back. It might have, some really good ideas that you haven't thought of or something,
Yeah, I'm just learning really, as I go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. And it's the things that you learn once you start diving into it and really researching and studying. And it makes you that much more dumbfounded. Like, how can this be happening? Like, why? And it is very discouraging. And very
one big takeaway I have from it is I don't trust CPS for anything. Like, I wish I never let her in my home. And I'm glad that I've learned that you don't have to. Like, I just thought I have nothing to hide. Of course, come on in, And then when she was like talking to me, like, I'm here to help you, I was just like, oh, thank God, finally, if I get this gas voucher, I'm out of here and we're safe. And this is wonderful, because it had been already a long, long journey to get where we were. And I was just relieved. I couldn't believe it even got worse after that. Like, this is insane. Like, not being able to have any contact with my children is just so, and not knowing that they're safe, pretty much knowing they're not safe that's torture. Like, it's hard to keep going. That's why I was saying I named him Haven. It's like he's helping me, to keep on, because I needed some kind of goodness in my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's so adorable. Hi.
And I have to say, my husband helps me too. He's a light in the darkness for me.
Absolutely. God will bring things into our life that we need through our healing journey. And, hopefully I can help find some connections for you. I mean, my channel and everything is still pretty new. We're just starting to, get our marketing together and get everything out there, but it's grown pretty exponentially in a short amount of time. Like, I just started doing podcasting, I think in like February, I don't know, sometime in the beginning of the year. And I've already hit over 1,000 views on YouTube.
Awesome.
So
I started a group on Facebook just to help get parents together and encourage each other and support each other, just resources and stuff. I saw that when I was trying to share on my normal Facebook page, people don't want to hear about the corruption. People don't really, they don't really care. So I was like, I made a group and I'll share you on there. It's called Take Heart. You're a good resource for a lot of parents. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, of course. So very happy to help. And if y'all want to get into it and want some tips and pointers on how to start your own, I would love to share what I've learned anyways. We take it with a grain of salt. I'm still new myself, but if I can help in any way, let me know and I'll, share your stuff and try to get people your way. And
thank you.
It's all about awareness. We have to work together and step by step, we'll get there.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day with little guy there.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime. If you want to come back another time or if you have new stuff that kind of transpires, just let me know and we'll get you on again.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day, Jessica.
You too, Danielle.
Bye.